I just got back from Disney. We tried a lot of things that are kind of newer in the Disney pantheon, and I think it's worth kind of getting into as two
It's good.
self-professed Disney nerds.
Nerdaroos,
There's definitely some stuff worth talking about.
Yeah, you were sending me good links the whole way through, especially the last couple of days. I was really happy with your last couple of days. I was proud of you.
Here's the thing. So Dan and I have a back channel, and I was joking around that this week I probably conversed with Dan more in the past 7 days than probably the last 3 months put together.
Could be, yeah.
But even with that, there's a couple of things that have been really useful. Now, Dan, you kind of did a thing, and you sent me a link to it, and it ended up coming in clutch. So can you tell me a little bit about that?
Just for fun and to learn some stuff that was relevant to my work, having to do with big data management and time series databases and things like that. I have been consuming into a database that I own the API data that serves the My Disney Experience app. So I've been capturing standby queue times, when the Lightning Lane availability opens and closes for every event, every attraction, the status of attractions, operating, closed, down. And I have that going back now 4 years, I think. I have plans about what I'm going to do with machine learning based on that 4 years worth of data, but just on like the right now data, I have stood up a small web app that shows you the current time, the standby time of every attraction and the status of it, mostly while you're there. The value of that is open versus down.
Yeah.
It also, I don't know if you ever turned on the text messaging feature. I sent you access to that, but I don't know if you ever, I couldn't see that you turned that on.
Yeah, I opted not to because battery life is so like crucial.
For sure.
In the parks.
Totally,
I just figured that getting 20 text messages every 5 minutes is probably not the move.
Well, it batches them up into one every 5 minutes.
Sure.
You can subscribe to changes in queue time and changes in status. So each of those will produce one every 5 minutes that says this thing went from open to closed, this thing went from 5 minutes to 15 minutes, like that. But it is a lot. And if you're trying to have a vibes time, it is, the whole thing there is that you spend a ton of time on your phone when you'd really like to be just like looking around, enjoying the environment. And I did definitely find that text message thing took me away from being present with vibes in a pretty good way. But I was really glad to hear that the app, as I built it, maybe reformatted the My Disney Experience app content in a way that was more accessible and readily actionable for you.
Yeah. So the thing about the Disney app itself is that it's on the map. So in order to see what the wait times are, you have to kind of like scroll around on the map and zoom in and zoom out. It was just nice to have a list view of it and things to be just very matter of fact. I found it useful in two particular categories, whether a ride was up or down and whether the wait time for a particular ride was worth looking into a Lightning Lane option. Because there were multiple times where we were like, all right, we just freed up a Lightning Lane. What ride should we go to next? Looking at the list and going, we can just hop into this line. We should be in and out, relatively quickly. So there were multiple times where those two things made it really, really valuable, especially the downtime. This is something that I don't know if this is trending up or not, but I felt like there was a lot of ride outages and not just in the new stuff, like the legacy stuff too.
Yeah. You had your day at Magic Kingdom. There was a lot of outage. I felt like your day at Hollywood Studios was pretty clean in terms of outage.
I would agree.
Just because I was tracking you from here, not you, but I was watching how the park was doing when I knew you were in that park.
Yeah. And the thing about the Magic Kingdom day is that was the only park that we did the Premier Pass at. For those of you who don't know what that is, the Premier Pass is basically you get a Lightning Lane for every ride in the park. And it is quite expensive. It is, multiple hundreds of dollars per person per day. And it was one of those things where it was kind of a tough decision to throw down for. But I can say that it was absolutely worth it. And the only reason why we didn't get through more of the rides that we wanted to get to was because of outages. I was the only person in my group to go on Pirates of the Caribbean because I was just bound and determined. I had spent the money on this dadgum service that I wanted to get everything out of it I possibly could. So I did. I lightning lane, because Pirates of the Caribbean was literally down all day until almost 4 o'clock.
You know the rumor about that?
No, tell me.
People are saying there is a nest of bats in the show building that is a protected species. So they can't just like grab them and take them out of there. They have to have like special remediation to come handle them. And whenever they're active in the building, it's an automatic shutdown for the whole ride.
Interesting.
So that's
big if true.
Big if true. I don't know if it's true, but for those of you who haven't seen it, which is all of you but Adam, I have a status page that sort of rounds up the timeline of downness of rides. And it does seem like Pirates has been down an awful lot for the last few weeks.
But as far as the Premier Pass goes, it was kind of revolutionary in a way that I wasn't quite expecting. The ability to lightning lane every ride that has one.
And at any time. It's not a scheduled deal. You just rock up.
Yeah. So you band in, you get to hop in the shortest version of every line of every ride that does it. And it was absolutely incredible. And by 9:15, we had ridden 4 rides, and you almost start to feel bad. Like it's not fair. Like you don't feel bad enough like you're going to not participate.
Yeah, no, you paid for it.
But it does, after a certain amount, feel like, man, this is pretty wild. But what it allowed us to do is not only get to ride all the things that we wanted to ride, and Magic Kingdom is the place with the most rides, without question. So it gave us the ability to hit all the tentpole attractions. But what it also allowed us to do is to ride the rides that you normally skip over. Because most of the time when you know that you're going to be in a queue for 2 hours for the ride that you absolutely have to go on, you're not going to spend 45 minutes in Peter Pan or Winnie the Pooh. I'd never ridden either of those rides before. And I mean, Peter Pan's been there since the opening.
Yeah, and mostly they're just not worth the queue time.
But
just not worth it.
Totally.
But if you can zip right on.
Absolutely. Yeah. And so we rode every ride I have never ridden before. We rode the carousel. Like, I've never done that. It took the pressure off in a way that was like really enjoyable.
That's good.
Because other than the outages, that day, Pirates was down, Tiana's was down, Haunted Mansion was down pretty consistently throughout the day. Tron ended up going down after we rode it. Otherwise, we were able to enjoy the park in a way that, like, I don't think I've ever been able to.
The thing that I've thought about that top end Lightning Lane is that the incremental spend between that and the VIP tour may not be that much on some days. And that's an interesting thought.
Yeah. And we were talking about that too, because I've got extended family who've done the VIP tour where it's like you're on every ride and there's van transportation between parks, and you could literally do every ride in every park in one day. And while the cost is eye-watering, if you add up the park admission, the accommodations, the food, and you put all of that together and you're like, I could accomplish in one day what normally would take me 5.
Yeah.
It starts to make a bit more sense.
It does. And of course, you know, this is how they get you. Every time we talk about that, like, oh, we'll just do 3 days. And I'm like, well, but if we're there for 3, why not 4? Why not 4? Why about 5? 6 work for you?
Yeah.
My willingness to spend incrementally more is very, very high. And so that sort of thing does kind of pull to me. Now, the whole other thing that I realized on my last trip there, which was in October of last year, is how much my tendency toward ride optimization has worked against my just enjoyment of the space.
Sure.
You know, the day that I was there, I had a half day at Magic Kingdom on my own. And it was, I actually had enough time. I went and visited, I did the riverboat because it's going away. And I did Tom Sawyer Island because it's going away. I'd never done either of those before. Mm-hmm. And it was wonderful. And then I was just walking around and I realized an architectural fact of the movement between Frontierland and Adventureland, like several of the buildings sort of transition architecturally in a really smooth way that makes it not jarring to go between lands. I've never seen that before. And I only saw it because I was like a little bit slowed down, a little bit like more present because I wasn't galloping between lightning lanes.
Yeah.
And then the next day I had exactly the same experience at Animal Kingdom. That park, I think, very much rewards a vibes first approach.
Yeah.
Because the theming is so deep. I mean, every inch of every wall has some decision on it that's like unbelievable to understand what they've done. I'm going to try my next time there to be a little less of a optimizer and more of a vibes over rides kind of player.
Yeah, I think, I mean, ultimately, every time we've ever gone, it's always felt like it's never long enough. There's always more to do.
Yeah.
But I feel like we got way further down the line than we would normally.
Cool.
The only thing
Very
that
cool.
was increased beyond, since there weren't wait times, was the amount of walking we did. Because of all the outages, we were jumping lands a lot more frequently on that day.
Yes.
And so I put 20,000 plus steps. Sure. The last one being like we went from Barnstormer all the way over to Pirates, all the way back to Main Street to meet up with everybody. So that was going around the parade that's happening at the same time.
Oh, yeah.
It was a lot.
Yes, challenging. And you did a couple of things while you were there that I've always wanted to do but never had the chance to do. You got the full-on drink experience at Trader Sam's.
Yep.
So that was cool.
I've got thoughts about it.
Okay, well, I want to hear that. The other thing you did that I've always wanted to kind of do that I think is cool is you caught the Magic Kingdom fireworks from, I guess it must have been Grand Floridian Beach. Polynesian Beach, okay. Yeah, but seeing it from across the lagoon is like a cool experience and very chilled out compared to being elbow to elbow on Main Street.
Yeah.
So I'm glad you got to do those things. It was cool.
Yeah, the whole Polynesian part was for our son's 10th birthday. That's the reason why we were down there. And because the year that we had last year was like pretty bleak, especially around this time, my dad and mom came down for a couple of days, and the Polynesian was the first hotel that they ever stayed at. They started coming to Disney in 1971, stayed at the Polynesian, and so it's always kind of been like a special place for them. I took a picture of them in front of the idol there in the main lobby, and we had dinner at Ohana, and that's where Trader Sam's is. So both of those things were just in tandem with being at the Polynesian for that celebration. Gotcha. Dinner at Ohana is phenomenal, by the way. I would rate it above breakfast. I know the character thing is kind of the main drawing point.
And it's the only place you can see Stitch, really. So if you care about that IP, that's where you be.
Well, and as far as other character stuff, the Snow White experience over at Wilderness Lodge was phenomenal. They have a dinner at Artist Point that has Dopey and Grumpy and Snow White and the Evil Queen, and you get a royal invitation to go have your moment with the Evil Queen, who was phenomenal, by the way. You get to meet the Queen and get your picture taken, and the food was awesome. Totally worth going over there and checking that out. But the food at Ohana is family style at dinner, like it is for breakfast. But it's sweet and sour grilled chicken. It's grilled steak. You get these amazing kind of teriyaki chicken wings and pot stickers. And the food was just phenomenal on top of, the drinks and the views and all of that stuff. So if you haven't done dinner at Ohana, I would highly recommend it. I know that their reputation's been kind of hit or miss. We had a phenomenal experience.
I think it's mostly been about the breakfast. I mean, my understanding is the breakfast is kind of your standard Disney breakfast buffet stuff, which is fine. I mean, who's going to not like a Mickey waffle? Sure. But you're there for the characters in the morning. Now, so the family was the parents were at Polynesian. Where did you guys stay? We
actually all stayed at the Beach Club, but it was just that was the last night that everybody was there, so that was like the big kind of culmination of that whole trip. We all stayed at the Beach Club because of the proximity to Epcot and being able to drop in whenever. Yeah, before they started cracking down on it, we used to get an Uber from wherever we were to Beach Club. Mm-hmm. That was how we got to Epcot. It was way better than any other way, except for the last time when we were on a Skyliner
resort, and then that just solves the whole thing. But yeah, that walk from Beach Club is nice to Epcot.
Yeah. On our last day, we went from Animal Kingdom to Hollywood Studios to Epcot and then to dinner because some friends of ours were just at Epcot for literally one day. And I was like, we'll meet you in France. And so we just went back there, had a glass of champagne back there in Paris outside of Les Halles, and then went back to the hotel. And that was kind of like the day where we were wrapping everything up. We actually got a little Disney magic there on the last day. We were going to do Runaway Railway. It was the only ride that we didn't do at Hollywood, and the ride went down. And by the time we got to, the ride back to the hotel, it was back up, but we had missed it. So we went from Animal Kingdom to Hollywood, went up to guest services, and this is our last day. It's his birthday. This is the only ride we want to go on. And they got us lightning lanes. We were literally in and out of the park in under 30 minutes.
Sweet.
Which was pretty amazing. I even ran into a girl that I went to college with just randomly on our way out. So it was quite an eventful day. But back to the Polynesian. We had dinner reservations at 7:00. And so Amber and I got dressed early, went over at 4:00 to try and get into Trader Sam's. When we showed up at 4:00, they're like, it'll be 3.5 hours. It could be up to 3.5 hours. And we're like, ugh. Yeah. So we went ahead, put our names in, and nothing. We went back an hour later. Yeah, nope. Still going to be probably that long. An hour later, 2 hours in. Nope, sorry. And I was like, we got dinner at 7 anyway. And they're like, probably not. I don't think so. And so kind of disappointed. We went back and we're just kind of hanging out. And then just literally probably 20 minutes before our reservation time was supposed to happen, we got the text message. So it was an abbreviated experience, but basically there was a bunch of people that took off all at once and then a bunch of no-shows. So because we had been persistent in checking in, I think it kind of helped keep things front of mind for us. So right at the bar, got a couple of drinks, ended up having to take them to go after a bit. But for those of you who don't know, Trader Sam's is a tiki bar inside of the Polynesian. It is very small. I think there's maybe 25, 30 seats there tops. Yes. And it is kind of one of those off the beaten path, if you know, you know, kind of deals. It's definitely brighter than a lot of tiki bars I've been into, which is just kind of a funny aside. I feel like they're supposed to be intentionally dark and mysterious.
Moody.
Yes.
Yeah.
But the experience was great. Drinks were pretty solid. I ended up getting the zombie in a shrunken head mug that I ended up purchasing. I have a nice collection of tiki paraphernalia, and it was a good addition to the collection. But the shtick there is that the bartenders basically, when a drink is made, the entire bar comes alive. And there's a bit that happens in conjunction with the order. Lots of jokes with 2 shots of rum, where they'll say something and all of a sudden you hear pop, pop, red lights will be 2 shots of rum. There's a volcano themed one. The volcano in the window, which is a screen, erupts and, the lights flash and all of that stuff. And you're getting kind of that Skipper Canteen kind of experience where there's a tone to the way that the bartenders are talking to you. And overall, it was a cool experience. I wish we could have been able to stay in there longer, but we saw the whole thing light up multiple times. Good. Got a feel for it. I don't understand why you would bring kids into that place, but you can. And I know that Disney's for kids, but
isn't it 21 and up after
8:00?
Yeah.
Yeah. But if you wait until 8 to go there, you're not getting in.
You're not getting in.
Period.
No chance. Yeah.
So
because there's no reservations. It's all wait list. So you show up, when they open the wait list, like you did.
Yep.
And you're on it wherever you're on it. And maybe you'll luck out.
They open at 3. We just couldn't make it over there in time. We 3 parks in one day plus shower and all that. It just wasn't feasible.
We're busy. Yeah.
So after dinner, we ended up finding a spot on the beach and got to see there's a pre-show show with these light up barges and the music.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
It felt familiar. I don't remember ever going to it, but I definitely had that deja vu moment. I was I feel like I've seen this before. So it might've been a thing that we saw when we were kids. and I felt oddly nostalgic towards it, even though I'm not sure I've ever experienced it before.
That was the feeling that I had in our October trip on my solo day when I didn't have people pressing me to not do things. I did the Country Bears and realized that I have done Country Bears before, and how I realized it was the heads on the wall, the moose and moose and...
Wrong IP.
Yeah. No, I suddenly had a flashback to me being 8 or something and seeing that, and I was glad to have had the memory. The new Country Bears is fun. I liked it.
Yeah, we didn't make it to that one. Yeah, we were just trying to squeeze it all in. We probably could have made it work, but there were bigger fish to fry, as they say.
Right.
So the cool thing about the beach experience over at Polynesian is that they pump the music in from the park. So you've got a pretty clear view of the castle. It's behind the trees, but you can kind of see the projections. You can hear the music. You know, the fireworks are, of course, fireworking. And it was just nice. And it was a cool, like, chill night. And after all the other stuff that we had done, it was a very nice way to kind of wrap up that trip, and felt like a good period to put on the whole experience.
That's good.
I would say, you know, Trader Sam's, if you are a fan of tiki bars and tiki drinks and that whole vibe, it's probably worth the time if you've got it. If none of what I said seems interesting to you, it's probably not for you. The whole tiki thing is very much a certain experience that certain people enjoy. I happen to be one of them. But if that's not your deal, it's probably not a big deal for you to skip it. I do think the more chill nighttime experience is definitely worth pursuing if the idea of being that crowded in a park just makes you uncomfortable. Yeah. It's a great alternative. And I mean, there were people out there, but it wasn't as, you know, overwhelming.
Sure. I mean, there are observation points at all of the lagoon resorts, right? There's a rooftop thing at Contemporary that you can see the park and the fireworks from. So those are all pretty good options if you don't feel like being in among the masses. Now, my thing, of course, is if you're in the park, there's a lot of people who feel like the fireworks are the end of the night, and quite frequently they're not. Quite frequently, there's a couple of hours of park time left after that. So the trick is, like, let them flow out, and then, you know, you get a couple. I've been known to just loop Haunted Mansion.
Yeah.
At that point, just, you know.
Typically, our go-to move was Big Thunder Mountain during the fireworks, because you get just the coolest view, and it's a super fun roller coaster.
Of course, it's down now. But.
Yeah. So that wasn't an option. But yeah, anytime that you are in a park and you're like, fireworks are fine, it is a really good opportunity for you to get onto some rides that normally would have longer wait times. So something worth thinking about. But yeah, I mean, the re-entry is always rough. The drive home was abysmal.
Really?
Yeah, 75 North was just an absolute drag. It was stop and go literally from the Florida Turnpike all the way to Georgia 400, which is like literally the last 19 miles of the trip. So it took us forever. My dad and mom ran out of gas on the turnpike.
Oh no.
It was literally 2 miles shy of the service station. By the time we got there, Florida Highway Patrol had helped them out and they were already on their way. They left an hour or so before we did and made it home around the exact same time we did. So we never ran into them other than just saying goodbye as they were driving off. But yeah, it was great. And, you know, awesome. We're always thinking about when we can go back and
constantly, you know, after our last trip was the first time in quite a while that we haven't had a trip there planned.
Yeah.
You know, we went twice last year, and because we kind of had to make up for that first one. January of last year, we went with another family, and it was just way harder than we had pictured, and we left very frustrated, and so we just booked again for later in the year. But like to pull up the app and not have a countdown is like sad.
Yeah.
It's a sad thing.
Yeah. I'll definitely say having an extra 3 folks, because Amber's mom also was a part of the experience and was super helpful and gave us the ability to do some things we normally wouldn't be able to do as far as just having free time.
Yeah.
But yeah, managing rides and expectations and reservations and all that stuff, yeah, definitely adds a lot more work on the other end of it. Yep. But all in all, Loved it. We'll go back.
That's good. That's good.
I think I think we're thinking Yacht Club next time.
Nice.
It's been recently redone. It's just darker and moodier in a way that like is just more our vibe. But after going to the Polynesian and spending, that evening there, Amber's like, maybe we should stay here. So who knows?
Yeah, I've never been on a monorail resort. That does sound like fun.
Yeah. The villas definitely looked real neat.
Yeah.
I told our son, it's like, if you want to go and stay at the villas, we can do that, or you could go to college. Your choice. But all in all, listen, if you have any questions about any of the stuff that we talked about, hit us up. Happy to answer any of that stuff. I'm sure there might be some inquiries about the whole web app thing, and I don't know if that's quite ready for prime time, but I'm sure there might be.
It's not at all, and it may not ever be. It's sort of for individual friend and family use, but you patrons are friends and family, so I'm happy to share it. Yeah, not a problem at all.
Thanks, guys.